had lost my job, just got started with the company, and had lost my job, and had a credit card. I was one of those people that paid my bill when the bill came in. And at that point, I had no income. I was terribly in debt, and I wasn't real concerned about this credit card. I was more concerned with keeping the lights on and the phone ringing so I could change my situation, and didn't pay the bill for a few months. Finally got to the point where I could pay it. I called the credit card company up. I said, draft it out of my bank account. They said, we sure will, and they did. And then they drafted it again, and I bounced about 7 checks. And I was devastated. And I did what I was raised to do. I picked up the phone. I called the credit card company. I said, you did this. You weren't supposed to. Give me back my money, the bounce check fees. They said, you know what, we did, but we're not going to give you back your money. And I said, yes, you are. And they said, no, we're not. And I said, yes, you are. And they said, no, we're not. And it went back and forth like that for a while. It wasn't quite that nice. I finally said, you know what, you're going to hear from my attorney. And I'll never forget the lady said, what's your attorney going to do? And I said, well, you just wait and see. I was kind of waiting and seeing too. I wasn't real sure what was going to happen. Called the law firm. A couple hours later, attorney calls me back. He three-wayed me into the credit card company, said I'm such and such attorney. You abused her rights and taken advantage of her. You will reimburse the money, the bounce check fees, any other fees that she incurs. I want it in writing, and I want it in 24 hours. And the lady said, yes, sir, we will. And it happened just like that.
I've used it for goodness. My car at a dealership, when they detailed it and it broke. I had a picture on a billboard when I used to model. I got $5,000 check back from a picture on a billboard that I'd never seen before because I have attorneys coast to coast nationwide. I've used it for my insurance. I've used it for my health issues. I've used it for my builder at my house. I mean, I'm like the poster child for prepaid legal, but I never thought to use an attorney before. But now that I don't have to think about it, it gives me power. So all the times before when I said, you know, you're going to hear from my attorney, and I knew I didn't have one, and they knew I didn't have one, now I have one now. And I don't have to check my pocketbook before I check my rights. So it's just awesome to be able to have access. Average Americans can have access just like the wealthy. And even my wealthy friends have access because it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. And so they use it along with the attorneys that they already have.
A trooper pulled me over and said that I was speeding. And first thing he did was, told me to get out the car and, grab his pistol and said, get out the car. I stuck my head out. I said, what you pulling me over for? He said I was speeding. So get out the car. Got out the car, put my hands up on the car. I did that.
When the officer told my husband to get back into the car, he was going to be fined for speeding, and we were to follow him to the judge's office. We obeyed, followed them to the judge's office, and at that point, my husband had told the judge, Your Honor, I'm not going to pay for a fine that I feel I was wrongly accused of.
Asked me if I had an attorney, and I said, you know what, I'm going to call an attorney. I have an attorney here in Texas. And she kind of chuckled and, laughing, like, you from Hawaii? You have an attorney here? I said, yeah, I'm with Prepaid Legal.
And so we were able to get on the phone with our law firm in Honolulu. Within 10 minutes, they were able to contact the Texas law firm, who in turn contacted the Justice of the Peace's office. It was very, very scary because being so far away from home, not knowing what was going to happen to my husband, I really thought he was going to get arrested. And so having the peace of mind that we were able to pick up the phone and call just gave me the satisfaction that we really have access to our rights.
This was maybe about 3 to 4 years ago, a hotel chain that I had booked to stay at 3 months prior to the convention. I literally called them to cancel that out and decided to stay at the host property. Now, this was 3 months before I was going to stay there. And so 3 months went by, went to the convention, came home, thought everything was okay, and then ended up getting a $400 and some odd charge checking my online banking from a hotel that I did not stay at. Called them up, and unfortunately I got the runaround game. They said, well, hey, look, if you don't have a confirmation or a cancellation number, we can't do anything about refunding this. Just so happens, after getting their supervisor and the supervisor's supervisor, I picked up the phone, called my attorneys. They asked me to simply explain in writing what happened. I explained it to them. They fired off a letter, and then the hotel chain did what they should have done in the first place.
In the process of buying a house, we sent the paperwork over to an attorney, and the attorney called us back and said, I reviewed it. There is actually about $850 in junk fees that is hidden not in the numbers but in the wording of the contract. And he said, what do we do? He says, well, go back to your mortgage person, tell him that you talked to your attorney and that you would like to take it out. And I said, well, what if he's not going to do it? And he says, well, in this case, put him on the phone with me. We came back and they talked to the mortgage person, told him that the attorney recommended us to take this out, and he didn't put up a fight and took it out and saved us, not only $850, but how much would it be over the course of the 30-year-old mortgage. So it's just a powerful thing to have at your disposal, so that in the future, the wealthy people are wealthy because they have attorneys to make smart decisions. So we're very lucky to have it.
My wife and I had a rental property, and at the time it was vacant. And we were paying about $30 in electricity bills, and that's not that big of a deal. The challenge is this particular month it was $347, and we figured there must be something wrong. So my wife called the energy company and talked to them, and they said, well, go ahead and pay the bill, and then we'll just send someone out to check it. Well, that wasn't an amicable solution for us, but the following month, because there was no resolution for the previous month, the bill was $850. And we called Prepaid Legal. They wrote a simple letter for us, and it resolved the entire bill for us at no charge to us. To us, that was well worth having the membership.
Utilizing the Prepaid Legal Life Savings legal plan, the service has been excellent over the years that we've had it over the past. Utilizing the Prepaid Legal Life Savings legal plan, the service has been excellent over the years that we've had it over the past 7 years, using for various situations. And the quality of the law firm and the professionalism of the law firm, from the receptionist to the attorneys, has just been outstanding.
Recently, I purchased a new mattress, and I got it at a great sales price because it was last year's model. And so when I got home, though, unfortunately, the mattress didn't sleep very well. So I called the person who sold me the mattress, and they told me I need to call the sales manager. So I spoke with the sales manager that was over them, and they said, well, it's out of our hands. You'll have to speak with the store manager. So then I phoned the store manager and spoke with the store manager to say that, what can we do about this matter? And they said, well, ma'am, we're sorry, there's nothing that we can do. So then I had to call the regional manager down in another area, which I was not able to get through on my own. And so at that point, I got rather frustrated. So I picked up the phone and I called my provider law firm. Once I contacted my provider law firm, they wrote a very stern letter to the regional office, and the regional office, after receiving that letter, decided to reevaluate my situation and actually decided to give me my money back, and they came and picked up the uncomfortable mattress.
Shortly after moving to Virginia, the city that we lived in said that they're going to be delivering everyone a new, big, full-size recyclable trash can instead of just a little bin that they normally give us. And I thought that was kind of neat. So a few weeks later, I was out getting the mail, and I watched the guy deliver everyone's new, big, blue trash can on our street. I looked around, and he put one in front of every house except ours. And he was already gone, so I realized he must have missed our house. I called the city up the next day and says, hey, I didn't get my trash can. Can I get one in the next couple of days? She says, well, what's your address? And I gave her our address. She says, no, we have here that we delivered one to you yesterday. I said, no, ma'am, he may have checked my house off the list, but we didn't get a trash can. Can we get one in the next couple of days? She says, no, we're going to have to do an investigation. And I said, over a trash can? She says, yeah. And about a week later, they called me back after concluding their evidently extensive investigation. And she told me that they had come to the conclusion that someone had stolen my trash can. And I told her, I said, well, man, why would someone steal my trash can? Is it possible that they just missed my house? And she says, no. So we think someone stole your trash can. We interviewed the dispatcher and the driver, and that's what we come up with. And she said, well, we can get you a new trash can. We just need you to contact the police department, file a police report, and fax us a copy of it. And I said, I'm not calling the police about a trash can I never got. She says, well, the only other way you can get one is to buy a new one, and they're $80. And I said, I'm not buying a new trash can either. And she says, well, those are the only two ways you can get a trash can. I told her, I said, well, those are the only two ways you're telling me I can get a trash can. I'm going to contact my attorney, find out what my rights are. Hung up with her, picked the phone, contacted our law firm there in Virginia, and it wasn't a long conversation. It was only a trash can situation, but about a couple hours later, after my attorney got the information, contacted the city, my doorbell rings, I opened the door, and there's a guy standing there from the city next to a big blue trash can.
In 2003, I received a bill for $1998. It was over $1,600 from the IRS. And I picked up the phone, called the law firm. My tax attorney calls me back. We spent about 15 minutes on the phone. He told me exactly what I needed to do. Actually introduced me to a website I didn't even know existed. And I did it. Only took me 15 minutes. I thought it was going to take hours and hours and days. And 3.5 weeks later, I got a letter from the IRS informing me they owed me money for 1998. So I was flexing my legal muscle.
I contracted with a nationwide moving company, and the contract provided for a payment based on the weight difference before and after loading the vehicle, and based on that I paid by cashier's check about $8,500 upon arrival in Florida, and that should have been all of it. But to our surprise, a few weeks later on, we received an invoice from that moving company asking for $420 for alleged additional services that they provided. Well, this was not required by the contract, so Marianne called the moving company and said we would not pay it, and they said, well, in that case, we'll put it through collection. So now we remembered we had an attorney, and the attorney, the law firm, wrote a letter of which we got a copy, and the letter was very brief and to the point. It said, you're in violation of the following federal law, which of course I didn't know what that was, but they did. There's a statutory fine of $1,000. Govern yourself accordingly. And that letter did the job. We got a response from the moving company through our attorney, and that letter said, we agree with your clients, please tell them to disregard the invoice. They will not have to pay it, and we hope we can close the file.
I'll never forget the first time I called my law firm and they called me back, and I said, oh, it works. It was a landlord-tenant issue. I had a $1,000 security deposit that this woman was trying to keep of mine wrongfully, but I didn't know what to do about it, so I did what most 19-year-olds would do at the time. I called Mom, and I said, what do I do? And she was like, what did you do? And so she said, you should call those legal people, and so I ended up calling Prepaid Legal, and as a result of getting the consultation from the law firm and having them make a phone call on my behalf, within 3 days after the phone call from my law firm, I had a check for $1,000 from that landlord. So, after that, Prepaid Legal has always made me more money than I've ever spent on the cost of the service.
Well, I took a rather serious fall in the ice, and as a result of that, because I was on a business trip, I was actually sidelined from my business for about 2 weeks. I knew that I was going to be calling Prepaid Legal just because I wanted to know what my rights are, what should I do. The counsel I got from our provider attorney firm in Arizona was absolutely excellent, and came to a settlement, which was very good. And the Prepaid Legal membership is something I always know that I can make quick reference to and get an opinion. And it's just one phone call that I have to do to find that out.
A couple years ago, my car got vandalized, and the headlights and the sunroof was damaged to where it needed to be replaced. So I had car insurance, been with the same company for many years, thought it'd be handled great, turned the car in. I had rental reimbursement on my policy, so that made it pretty easy. So I had the rental car, and just the car's in there getting fixed and thinking everything's going well, and all of a sudden one day I get a call from the body shop where the car was. And he said, well, I just want to advise you that your car would have been ready like over a week ago. But I had to send back, it was a second set of headlights that I've had to send back to them. And I said, I was really confused. I said, what do you mean? Isn't it new headlights? What was wrong with them? And he said, well, the brackets were broken. And I said, how's that possible? He said, well, are they new? And he said, no, they're actually from a junkyard. That's what they do. And I had never dealt with this before, and I said, really, that's what they do? I pay all this money into my car insurance. How are they using used parts? My car was only a couple years old. I bought it new, my first new car, buying my new car with 30 miles on it. So I tried to protect it, and I didn't think they were going to put these used parts on. So I called my car insurance company, and of course, like you hear all the time, they said, well, that's our policy. So I hung up, pretty upset, and I thought, well, I have my prepaid legal plan. Let me call my provider law firm and see if they can help me. And they definitely did. After I explained it to the law firm, told them what happened, they asked me some questions about my policy and then said, what would you like us to do? They could have written a letter or made a phone call, and they actually suggested a phone call because it really had to happen pretty quickly. And it was great because this was a Friday. And they reached the regional office of my car insurance company. I got a phone call back from them. I don't know what the attorney said. Must have been good, but they called me back and said that they were sending an adjuster out to the body shop on Monday to look at my car. And Monday morning, after the adjuster was there, I got a phone call. He said, well, we've decided to authorize a supplemental check for $300 for your car. So that was the difference to put the new parts on. And I was just really excited. I couldn't, I think the long-term effects were bigger than just the $300. It was my new car, and it was I bought it new, and now I knew that it was just fixed better, and that here's this car insurance that we pay all this money to, and it was great to know that my provider law firm could get that done for me.